So to get started in today's section, it's sure gonna be a brief one. And just like every other section, it's sure gonna be so impactful, it's sure gonna be resourceful. And at the end of today's section and prior sections that will be coming after this one, I just want to believe that all the participants here will actually go get started when it comes to rendering bespoke and peak services around traveling business. So, in getting started, we'll be looking at just three things today, and I believe all of us actually have a general overview of what we are talking about. We'll be looking at study abroad program, package tours, and conference visa. So, within the limited time we have, I just want to enjoin us to pay the very best of attention. Let's listen with all keen interest and pay rapt attention. Take the appropriate notes. Take notes at when due so that you can actually, beyond the section, beyond going to watch it on YouTube, since it's a recorded section, you can actually have made so much that you can get started. Now, my name is Rick Welch. I am a Nigerian residing in California. And at the time now, I'm an immigration lawyer with wealth of experience, a co-founder of a travel tech company in the US with branches scattered all over Africa and other parts of the world. So it's my great pleasure to actually bring to this section to us. It's a great one. And I'm so delighted to see some of our returning participants. I think I still get to know a few persons here, the likes of Ogechi Ajare, yeah, and Queen Disani. Yeah, I think those persons have actually taken previous classes before now. So it's a great pleasure to still have us come back over and over, building capacity to actually deliver the very best of bespoke services around travel. So in getting started, we are going to be starting with study abroad. We're looking at study abroad and how to navigate around the study routes or the study permit route. All you need to know as a traveling consultant or as a traveling resource person or as a traveling agent rendering services in the traveling space, either for yourself or for your relatives, your clients. So what are all the things you need to know? But we are not going to be able to cover a larger scope because of limited time. So we, to some extent, we just get to have a general overview of what applies in every sphere. Then we might just pick just two nations as a case study. So when we talk about study abroad, in its simplicity or in its simplest form, it's not so broad in term. It's self-explicable. The terms itself actually explain what it is. So when we talk about study abroad, it's simply the act of gaining some form of formal education or some later education outside the sphere of your nation, outside your country of domicile, or outside your place of nationality. So that is what study abroad actually means. So, for instance, you reside in Nigeria. If you're going to study in Canada, in Canada, is study abroad. Going to study in Ghana, is study abroad. Going to study in any country outside your country of nationality or of dominance or of residence, it's said to be study abroad. And study abroad has actually proven to be one of the most viable routes with which several persons who have actually migrated from their country of nationality to other parts of the world explore, and they actually got that, or they actually got to move to other parts of the world. And it's still one part of the traveling industry where a whole lot of persons or consultants are still rendering services today, and is by far one of the most expensive routes. Yeah, the study routes or the study permit routes has proven to be one of the most expensive, especially if someone is coming from Africa trying to go study in the West, places like US, like Canada, like UK, like Australia, or even some part of Europe. It's only European nations, especially EU nations, that have proven to be very, very cheap. Yeah, the most affordable places to study outside Africa today is the EU nation. So we are going to still get to look at that in a bit. So now, just like I stated earlier, that when we talk about study abroad, it's simply the act of someone, an individual, or a person who tries to gain some sort of formal education outside his country of nationality or his country of domicile. So that is what study abroad means. And in the course of study abroad now, one also have to note that it actually comes on a stepwise basis. So if I want to study abroad, what are some of the things I need to know? What are some of the things I need to have handy, right? Because if you don't have certain basic things in place, you to some extent will not be able to achieve your dream. Now, you might be wanting to come study in the US, for instance, or you might be wanting to come study in Canada, for instance. But for you to achieve this aim, there are absolutely certain things you have to put in place. Because if you actually don't have those things in place, there is absolutely no how you'll be able to do that. So now that we know what study abroad is, what are some of the benefits of studying abroad? So for someone who wants to study abroad, what are some of the advantages, the merits, the strengths, the significance that comes with studying abroad? So we're just going to look at a few, then we are going to look at different study abroad methods, because when it also comes to study abroad, there are different methods that applies to it. So we are going to look at them. Then after that, now we now go over to the side of documentation for each of these study abroad methods. Then when that is well established, we now get to look at a few institutions where we can come study in selected two countries as the case may be, and also how to explore other funding opportunities. Because I did say earlier that coming to study abroad is quite exorbitant, it's so expensive. So we just have to also look out for other funding routes that will actually fuel or make this dream of ours a reality. But when it comes to studying abroad, certainly there are numerous benefits significantly why people come to study abroad. And these benefits can actually be packed when into the view of academic benefits, personal benefits, professional development, and the likes. So one first and foremost, one of the benefit that comes to study abroad is exposure to new academic system. So these are the academic growth. So when you are leaving your home country or your country of domicile or your country of nationality to another country, right? There are absolutely new academic systems you'll be exposed to. The conventional systems that applies in some part of the world don't actually apply in other parts of the world. So this exposure to new academic system help to broaden your academic perspective, as well as introduce it to new methodologies and ideas. So these are just some of the benefits. Academic wise, you're going to see new academic systems. And with that now, you get to have a more broadened academic perspective, and some sort of methodologies and ideas will be introduced to you. So that will actually enhance your ability to actually get to contribute immensely after graduating or after acquisition of the academic certificate. Now, the next is access to specialized programs. Now, there are so many specialized programs that study abroad comes with, or that you get to offer when it comes to study abroad, which naturally you might not get to have them being offered in your home country. For instance, in Nigeria, there are certain courses we do in Nigeria, but coming down to the western part of the world, those courses never got to find relevant. They were never relevant. You got to find out some of those things we get to study way back or far back at home in the country in Nigeria. When you come back, when you come to the West, you find out all of those things don't even exist. And vis-a-vis by the preposition to chance, they shouldn't even be something people should study. But so these are some of the assets you'll be getting to. You get to learn about more specialized programs, because in the West, most parts of programs that are being said in the West are basically aimed for the purpose of specialization, for you actually developing some sort of specialty around them. And for them also now, you get to learn new language skills. Sure, you get to improve on your language skills. For instance, if you're a Nigerian, Nigerian being an Anglophone country, now you're going to study in a place like Italy. Apparently, you have to learn the Italian language. So all of these exposures actually enhance your value even in the job marketplace, because you got dual speaking ability. You can communicate and interact with people outside your country of colonization or even your mother tongue. So that actually enhances your ability. Now, talking about personal growth, what are some of the benefit that comes with personal growth? Now, one is increased independence, right? When you get to study abroad, when you get to study outside the status quo of your nationality, You get to have this enhanced self-reliance and independence. Yeah, you just have this inbuilt confidence in you that actually get to place you on the same pedestal with anybody in the world. For instance, a few persons who actually studied in some African countries might to some extent be intimidated when they're actually putting in for the same position, let's say job position, with maybe a Caucasian or someone who comes from the West, because that phobia is those people are more advantageous than I do. So, but when you come in, regardless your nationality in Africa, and you did come into the US or come into Canada or any part of the world outside the African continent, you now have this enhanced self-reliance and independence to compete favorably without having the phobia of maybe academic discrimination or low quality of education as it seems in some part of African country. So all of that will be totally what erased. And you become more culturally what your cultural awareness level is what enhanced because you get to meet people different way of life, their culture, their belief system, everything about them is quite different from the conventional African setting. So all of that, to some extent, increases your cultural awareness and interpersonal relationship with other people. And beyond that, now coming abroad to study comes with a new environment, and new environment comes with new challenges such as language barriers, cultural differences, and all of these things are sure things you will be what you are going to surmount or you are going to conquer or you are going to overcome while studying abroad. Now, the next now is career advancement. When you get to study abroad, you have a global network of influence. So you build network of international contacts, including professors, classmates, people in your professions, and all of that. So these are some of the benefit that comes with it. Now you improved employability. Now it's the general African setting. If someone gets to study in the West, right, in Africa, the person might be considered for more valuable positions than someone who study in Africa. For instance, if I get to do my MBA somewhere in Nigeria and someone gets to do his or her MBA somewhere in the US, okay, let's just suppose someone had his or her MBA in University of Ibadan or the popular Lagos Business School, and another fellow gets to have it from Harvard. Now you get to see that a Harvard MBA will be preferred to Lagos Business School MBA holder. So your employability is thoroughly what enhanced. You get to have increased chances of being employed when you get towards to study abroad. And beyond that, also now you have your career opportunities will be more broadened. Yeah, because you'll be exposed to international job markets and industries. You'll be open to new career paths. So all of these things are just a peripheral of some of the benefits. So time will fail us to look at personal relationship and social network. So I feel at this time now, and several other benefits that comes with it, what we should be looking at the time now is what are the different ways to come study abroad. There are different ways to study abroad. Just as we know, the route to studying abroad can actually be placed into three categories. So now when you are actually coming in as either a traveling consultant or as an immigration consultant trying to guide people who actually want to explore the study routes, what are some of the routes with which you can advise them to explore? So we are going to be looking at some of those routes or the different study abroad methods with which an individual somewhere in Africa can actually watch, can actually explore. And with those routes, that fellow or that individual can actually come to study abroad. Now, types of study abroad programs, we basically have three types of study abroad programs. And so I don't know if we have ample time, we'll go over to see some of those practicals. But I think this part is very salient, and the few other parts I'll be mentioning. I just want to believe maybe after the entirety of the 3 day section, all necessitated PDF materials would have been made ready. Some of them are ready, but we actually want to have a one-pack PDF for all so that you don't have to start sorting that PDF or reaching out for that PDF. And that is the more reason why we have most part of the PDF being delayed. So now, if you want to study abroad, what are some of the study abroad methods you can explore? Now, the first is exchange programs. Yeah, the first is exchange programs. And exchange programs are actually one of the routes with which you can use to avert international fee. Let me get to explain this. When you want to study abroad now, the fees are actually in three categories. Let's use Canada as a case study. For every institution in Canada, be it except for a few private varsities or private colleges. For most public varsities or government-owned institutes, now they have three types of tuition, right? Now they have domestic tuition. Domestic tuition, for instance, is a tuition fee someone who stays in Canada will pay, who is not from the province where that varsity is. For instance, now let's use University of Manitoba. Now, University of Manitoba has a tuition that people who came from Ontario, from the Manitoba province, will pay. So if you're in Manitoba, you are maybe a student from the province of Manitoba, now you pay a certain fee. It's usually cheaper. Now, but when you come from other provinces in Ireland, in Canada, like Prince Edward Island, maybe some part of Ontario, other islands, mention them, you are still another fee. You pay a separate fee. That is called the domestic fee. But now they now have the international fee. And international fees are usually sometimes almost 80% increment of domestic fee. So you now go find out that it's practically so overwhelming to see someone who is coming to study in Canada, for instance, has to pay a tuition of about 18,000 Canadian dollars. That's so overwhelming. And you now get to see someone who is in Canada or who stays in Canada paying 4,000. So you can see now that looks way too much. Sometimes the difference is even close to 2 to 3, 500% increment. So all of that actually raises the red eye, raises concern. So, but now how do you avert all of these things? That is where the exchange program comes in. So when we talk about exchange program, what it simply means in totality is students swap places with a student from a partner institution. Okay, this is what applies. Let me get to give an instance. For instance, I want to study in Canada, though we'll still look at ways of funding study abroad. How do you fund study abroad? Now, you got this passion, or you got a client who wants to come study abroad, but he doesn't have so much resources. We are going to look at some of the different routes with which you can help them still come to study abroad without incurring so much cost. Now, first I said is you come to Canada to study ABC course, but while you're in Canada now, you now switch to XYZ course. So that is an exchange program. So how do I save costs with an exchange program? Fine, if I'm coming to study in Canada and I do know I want to study a more viable course and I want to pay domestic fee. So what I will do is simple. I'll pick a course that is not so expensive, less expensive course, maybe a course that is maybe a few bucks, maybe let's say 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, for instance, for an international student. Yeah, there are courses that are even 1,000. You can come study some courses in Canada for 1,000. Example of such courses are the ESL. They are language courses. So you can see use a language program to get yourself to Canada. It's still study abroad. Though we will still have all of that well discussed and just opposed. Now, so if I want to come study in Canada, let's say I want to come study nursing, and my tuition for nursing, let's say, is 25,000 Canadian dollars. And I got to check the tuition for domestic students, and they did say that domestic students should pay, let's say, 9,000 Canadian dollars. Now I go find out 25,000 is way too much for me to take. So what will I do? I will explore what is known as the exchange program route. I will come study a less expensive course. So when I get to Canada and doing that course, I'll now pick admission for nursing. When I get to pick admission for nursing, if I'm being admitted, I won't get to pay international fee anymore. I'll rather pay domestic fee. So in that case, use the saving cost. So that is just what an exchange program is. So when we say an exchange program, it's just your ability to swap from one course to another course, from one institution to another institution, from one college to another college. You get that now. But there is a clause. You can't actually do this all the time, you can actually get to do an exchange program for varsities or colleges who have mutual agreement with the other college, so that you don't get to start all over again, so that you don't get to start your program from the scratch. Because it won't be so well said after spending 9,000 to come, now you're leaving that program to go to another program because it's your dream course, or it has been your proposed or supposed course for less. I'm sorry, for either for less, but you have lost some power funds earlier. So that would not make so much sense. So before you can actually do an exchange program, you do an exchange program with only varsities that have shared mutual agreements in the past. So these are varsities who have some MOU binding. Okay, that your student can come to our school, my student can come to your school. Or varsities are like, okay, you can start the small course, then switch to the other course and still maintain your level, right? So that is actually one of the routes. And one of the big proxy exposure that I feel will get along this course, along this section is, at the end now, we are still going to look at some study acts, while some of the quick, short ways we can actually get certain things done at the shortest possible time. And that's where we'll get to look at stuff like diploma, degree diploma program. Now, when we say degree diploma programs, we simply means programs that you come in as for degree, for the purpose of degree, but you could still do the diploma aspect, so that even if you can't actually afford your tuition, they give you a diploma certificate, use that to work. And when you have gotten some funds, then you now come back to complete your degree. We are still going to be looking at that. Now, the next study abroad program is the direct enrollment, right? So what is direct enrollment? So when we get to talk about direct enrollment is when someone somewhere in the city of Accra in Ghana now picks admission for University of Manitoba, and he was offered admission, got his study permit. Remember, I said there's no such thing called study visa, so that should be well understood. Got his study permit, flew down to Canada, came into the city of Manitoba to take his course, to start the program, usually as an undergraduate, as the case may be. So he's starting after his high school education. So that's a direct enrollment, right? And when we talk about direct enrollment, you can do direct enrollment in the following. You can do direct enrollment in professional courses. You can do direct enrollment in vocational courses. There are also vocational courses as well. You can as well come to Canada to learn plumbing. You can as well come to Canada to learn barbing, hair making. All of these things have their varsities, or they are basically colleges or vocational houses where you can actually get to learn all of these things, right? So that's what direct enrollment is. It's just a scenario where you're coming to Canada for a full integration into the host institution's academic life. So you are getting to start from ground zero, from the scratch, as a newbie, right? Either for a graduate program, let's say a post-baccalaureate, a post-diploma, or you're coming for your master's, as the case may be, or a PhD program or a doctorate program, but you are coming directly from your home country to start those programs from the scratch, regardless what level you are actually coming in for. Now, the next is language immersion program, the far the cheapest. Some sections before this time, we talk about the short course route or the short course program, which is just one of the ways or the fastest way to which you can adopt to actually move into Canada. But beyond those routes, we still have the language immersion programs. Now, for most courses, for instance, now, let me just give us a breakdown. Somewhere in Africa, sometimes you have to do IELTS, some sort of English proficiency test like Duolingo. You just have to develop some mastery, TOEFL, just to actually acquire certain basic knowledges before you come down, right? But do you know, instead of you doing an IELTS locally there, you can actually come do a language immersion program, either in French or in English in Canada. And those things cost as low as 1,000 to 1,500 Canadian dollars. And trust me, you'll still be given visa for this. So while you are doing your program, after taking your program, now you'll not be liking to an international student because you're in Canada already. They'll liken you for a domestic student. So you can easily apply to those schools, get admission to those schools, and you pay domestic fee. So you see that now. So We also have the language immersion programs. So there are those programs you undertake just to enhance your language proficiency through full immersion. When we go say through full immersion, it means you could do those things for 1 year. Yeah, I understand you speak English, but sometimes you still have to take an ESL program, which is an English and certificate language program, just to enhance your English speaking ability. Or boy, better say if you speak English from your home country, let's say Nigeria now, we are Anglophone, so we speak English. So instead of doing an English program, you can actually come down to do FSL, a French immersion course. Then you'll be taught French for the next 1 year. And with that, you can still use it to stay, or most likely now start getting either a direct enrollment or doing an exchange program, as the case may be. Now, choosing the right program, what's one of the things to consider? Now we actually know the different ways with which we can come to study abroad, be it Canada, be it Australia, be it United States, be it United Kingdom. We now have an overview of some of the methods with which we can adopt from language immersion programs. Those programs also apply to the United States. You can do a language immersion program in the US, yeah. You can do it in any part of the world, in Europe, in the North America, South America, even Australia, as the case may be. If you don't take direct admission or you don't do an exchange program, all of these are those possible ways with which you can actually cut costs. Now, before actually taking a course, I think this should not be said. Choosing the right program. What are some of the factors to consider? First, you have to look at your destination. Where do you want to study? Still get to know that some part of Europe, when you get to study in some part of Europe, you might not be considered to be a kind of a global graduate. Yeah, I stand to be corrected, but most part of Europe, one of the challenges that comes with European nations is European nation has always been infested with some sort of language barrier, right? And most part of those languages are not globally accepted language. For instance, if you are going to study in Luxembourg, you have to learn Luxembourgish, and you can actually compete favorably with someone who was schooled in English, where English is being taught, for instance, Canada or maybe US or maybe Australia, as the case may be. So now some of those split things are factors to consider before you actually, okay, I got this client who wants to study abroad. Some people just tell me, get me, I just want to study in any destination outside this country. I don't understand way back in Africa, the government has failed, economic is dwindling, things, life is becoming difficult by the day. So this crave to actually live, even by the slightest of seconds, exists in all of our minds. So at the slightest possible chance, I just want to leave this country. Yeah, I do understand. It's not been so easy staying. It's not easy staying around. It's not so easy staying at home. It's not been so easy in Africa, but you still have to actually put certain things into consideration. So before you decide to leave, first, you have to choose your destination. Because climatic conditions apply differently in all destinations. So climate, language, culture, safety, and cost of living. You still have to put some of those things into consideration. Some part of the West are more expensive than other parts of the world. For instance, coming to a place like Europe, Italy, it's okay when it comes to cost, but how about opportunities after study? Because I do know for most of us who want to study abroad, the end goal is to reside. The end goal is to japa, as the case may be. You don't want to come back anymore. So when you want to start pulling out resources to go study abroad, I do feel that the first thing to check is look at your destination closely. Will you be able to cope with their climate in the next 5, 6, 7 years? Do you understand their language? Are you willing to learn their language? Can you blend into their culture? Are their societies safe? What is the safety measures for those places? Also put cost of living. Luxembourg, so far, everybody keeps saying Luxembourg. But cost of living in places like New Zealand, in places like Luxembourg are way too expensive. So if you are going there, will you be able to cope? Will you be able to keep up? And furthermore, what impact will this location have after you are done studying? Will you be able to get a ready job? Will you be able to get a good job? Okay, fine. Even if you decide to take employment, can you easily get job opportunities? Let me get to say now, statistically, Unemployment abounds in every nation, right? There's unemployment in every nation, even including the US. There are many white collar graduates who God not sent doing, who are not doing blue collar jobs and the likes. Just that opportunities that abound varies, right? So if you are taking the study route, where you actually want to take the study, can you conveniently work? Let me give a case scenario. Okay, sometimes back, I got this fellow who wrote me a few years back. He said he has some funds, so he wants to study. And I did ask him, okay, where do you want to study? He said Malta. Okay, fine, great. Malta is not so expensive. And some of us must have heard agent tell you go study in Belarus, Malta, Mauritius. Now, the truth is, after studying all of those places, you will sure not get a job because Maltans are actually leaving their country to other part of the world. So you just have to put some of those factors into consideration. So he came in, he was a graduate way back. Yeah, I think we graduated same year. So he went study in Malta. After his graduate program, he couldn't get a job for 2 years. Okay, he felt maybe he should take a lecturing job. So he has to go do a doctorate program. Now, when he was done doing his doctorate program, he still could not get a job. So all of that impounded his chances. And as at the time he came into Malta, he was 33 already. So when he was done doing all of those programs, he's now 45, he's not married. Now he's still trying to see how he can leave Malta to other part of the world. So that is not actually a good omen. It's not a good experience for anybody. He wasted most part of his years trying to acquire education, and still with those education, he could still not get a job placement. So while you are putting into leave, or while you are trying to choose a destination to come to, you just have to put some of those things into consideration. Now, this is language. Where you're coming, for most part of the world, especially European nations, you have to spend 6 to 1 year learning their language before you can even start taking their programs. For instance, learning a language is not so easy, except for people who have spatial skill or who have this inept ability to learn any language quickly. But how about you who can't learn a language so quickly, right? So now, and you're going to a place like, for instance, okay, you just want to choose a destination, and you're going to a place like Spain where they speak Spanish, or Luxembourg when they speak Luxembourgish. So now, how are you going to learn this language? So now you have to spend an extra 6 to 1 year learning the language first because they're sure gonna deliver lectures in their own language. You won't be taught in your native language. You won't be taught in English. You'll be taught in their native language. And if you don't understand their native language, how are you ever gonna learn? How are you gonna get good grades? How are you gonna explore so well? So first, when you come in, you might end up spending 6 months to 1 year learning a language. Do you see that? So now, can you actually adapt to learning a new language? If you get to come to those place, or you get to come to the set country or the destination you want, can you learn their language? Now, the next now is academic focus. The course you're about coming to study, does it actually match with your life goal? Is it something, okay, now if what's come to worse, you can still use that to earn yourself a job. Fine, Jackpot using the story route is to leave Nigeria, leave Ghana, or leave any part of the African country where you are, now to the west. But can you actually use that to actually get to start a career with that? Right? So you have to look at academic focus. Can you blend to their cultures? Can you actually adapt to their culture? Now, if you have factored all of these things, first I said, before you start thinking, before choosing the right program, the first thing to do, the factors to consider is the destination. Where do you want to go to? Can you learn their language? Does the course you are learning actually matches? Does it actually matches with your life purpose? Can you actually use that to achieve your aim and goal? So you have to put that into consideration. Now, can you blend to their cultures? Now, when you have all of those things in place, the next now is you start researching program. You start researching the program. Okay, now, yeah, I think I can stay in Spain, for instance. I can blend with their culture. I can learn Spanish, or I've been learning Spanish before now, and all of that. Now, the next thing to look at now is you have to research your program. Now, before researching your program, you have to know universities or colleges or vocational institutes that offer that program. Do you see that? So the program you want to study now, where can you study it? Which, okay, now since you are coming to Canada, for instance, which varsity in Canada offers that program, offers that course you're intending to study? So you just have to have what a well-defined culture or glimpse of the course you are coming to study, and what are the different what are the different varsities, colleges that can actually enable you to achieve that goal. So you have to research the university. And before you do that, you have to consider the following. Are there universities that can allow you to get an exchange program? Are there universities that can give you access to financial aid? Because it's so important. Now, some universities give you partial scholarship. Some universities can even give you some grants. Some universities give students loan. So you see that. So before putting all of those things into consideration, can you just ask basic questions? Okay, XYZ University, can I get a student loan? Can they give me partial scholarship? Can I get a grant? Right? Because I do know of someone who could not pay up after his second year. Now the university did not allow him to gain access to his portal, so he's now rendered useless because he has nothing. He has nothing to work with. He has nothing to work with. He got nothing now, so he's just been rendered useless. So you have to put some of those things. Can the university allow you? Can they give you some credit loan? Can you just get some credit grants to finish up the program? If peradventure you can't, you just have to put that into consideration. And lastly, the most important, not every varsity offers a PGWP. I'll be using Canada as a case study. PGWP means postgraduate work permit, right? Because if the university you are trying to study does not offer PGWP, how will you will not be allowed to stay after your program? I remember you have actually expended so much in millions to actually get to bring yourself down to study. Now that you are done studying, you are now asked to go back to your home country. You know that of a truth is dilapidating, and you can actually imagine the state of dilemma or limbo that that could actually bring to an individual. So you just have to put all of these things into consideration. The school I'm going to study, now you know the program, now you have found the universities, you have found lists of different universities that offer that course or that program. Now the next question, can I get a loan? Does this university give students loan? Do they give some sort of financial assistance? Are there some scholarship programs? Are there anything that could actually enhance my value? Let's say you run into financial crisis. You have to figure out those universities. Now, thirdly, you have to look out for universities that have PGWP ability. Because if the said university you are coming to study doesn't have PGWP, there is absolutely no way you'll be allowed to stay, because you can't get a 3 years or 2 years work permit and study permit to stay, or you can't get a postgraduate work permit, because for most varsities, when you are done studying with them, they help facilitate your PGWP, which is your postgraduate work permit, especially for postgraduate programs, right? So now they give you a postgraduate work permit, so you can now work in Canada for 3 years. And some varsities also, at the time of doing programs, they link you up with a few organizations where you can get some sort of employment. All of that should be considered. These are factors that one should actually put in place. Because if you actually don't get to have all of those things in place, you might actually run into trouble. And before you start applying, before you look at what it takes to apply, always get to know that you have to verify the authenticity of the school. Because there are most schools, you see their websites online that don't exist. And some of those platforms were developed by hackers, were developed by some sort of internet fraudsters to defraud people. So you get to see now, you visit a very amazing website and you paid application fee. They gave you admission, easy peasy. In less than 2 days, you got admission. Wow, you are so excited. You are being forced to pay some percentage of the tuition. You do all of those things only for you to discover that such universities don't exist. So that's, to some extent, it it's a bad omen. So also check up to see if the said varsity in question actually is eligible for all of those things. But before I get further into what we're looking next, let me just share my screen so that we can just see some varsities in Canada and those who have ability to offer PGWP for those who are coming for their graduate programs, and to see a list of them that are registered. So in Canada, there's what is called the DLI license. So you just have to check if the varsity you are coming to study has a DLI license, either college or vocational training center, whether they have DLI license. Because if they don't have DLI license, all your efforts will be in futility. And that happens sometimes this year, sometimes in January. Most of the varsities in British Columbia, their DLI license were revoked, and all of them, the students in such places, were rendered helpless. And in that scenario, there's absolutely nothing you can do. It's either you take another course in some other universities whose DLI license is still invoked. And that was what brought about the provincial attestation later, that was later further approved, and universities now have the ability to start issuing that in June. It was the incident of the British Columbia that actually brought about the introduction of the provincial attestation later. So let me now get to share my screen now so that you just get to see. For all the schools you want to apply in Canada, you can easily check for their DLI license, and you can check if that school will give you PGWP after graduation with ease. All we need is for us to go to the Government of Canada website, which is canada.ca. So let me just set up my screen and get to share that with us. Okay, in a moment, I think my screen is coming up. We should be able to see. Okay, great now. Is my screen visible? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Visible.
Okay, now great now. So where I am now is called the Government of Canada official website. Let me just get to start the process. How I got here is canada.ca. Everything about Canada exists here, right? Now you can see, because I don't understand French, I'll go with English. Now I'll scroll down and go to immigration and citizenship, because that's where I can do stuff like visit, work, and study. Now when I go down now, I'll click on study. Now while in study now, you can see find a school. Can you see now? So before you even start, any school you want to start applying, you can get a bit of all their information, their licensing, do they offer postgraduate work permit directly on the official of Canadian government website. And if you want to apply for your postgraduate work permit after graduating from those schools, you do that from here. But first, let's get to a list of schools and see those who can actually offer out a postgraduate work permit and the schools that are licensed. Okay, now first we are going to look at all the provinces. For instance, you want to study in Alberta, for instance. These are the list of schools in Alberta. So you can see those that can offer a postgraduate work permit and those who can't. So for instance, the first school in Alberta is ABM College. These are DLI licensed. They are situated in Calgary, and they have a campus in Calgary as well. So can you see, offers postgraduate work permit eligible program? No. So if you are coming to ABM College to study, you can't get a postgraduate work permit. Though their license is still invoked, let's just get to see others to see, okay, now, so far we got a school year that can give you postgraduate work permit. Now, the school year is Alberta Bible College. I don't know if you can see Alberta Bible College. Yes, they are DLI licensed. They are situated in Calgary, the God's campus in Calgary. Yes, they can give you postgraduate work permit. So upon graduating from Alberta Bible College, you can actually get your postgraduate work permit, which is usually 3 years, to actually stay in Canada and work. But the clause actually applies. That's when you click details, you'll see courses you do in Alberta Bible College that might not give you a postgraduate work permit. So before you start applying to a school, do well to check. Okay, yeah, I'm coming to Ambrose University, for instance. This Ambrose University, yeah, these are DLI license. Calgary is where they're located. Yes, they offer postgraduate work permits, but the clause actually was varies. So before you actually get to start thinking of moving or coming to study, do a background check of the school. First, check for the DLI license, especially for schools in Canada, because these things you see, a whole lot of persons have been victims. They actually visited an online website. It appeared on Google. They saw some white students and even government official website. It's just a domain name. Anybody can buy that. And they applied, paid application fee. Some even paid tuition only to find out that they have been scammed. So be careful if you are doing it for yourself or on behalf of your clients. One of the things that we might not look here is getting partnership with schools, because time will fail us to actually have all of that discussed, right? How to get partnership with schools might not be so easily discussed. So we just, to some extent, we just have to look at that later. Now, I beg to just take a break. Let me pick up something.
Okay, I hope we are enjoying the session.
Very well.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay,
Very
that's
well.
good. So let's give him. All right, that's good.
Yes,
So let's just give him a
session.
minute and then. All right, that's good. So let's give him a minute to come back.
Right.
So for some of us that are having questions to ask, you can start putting those questions down. You can even drop them on the chat. So we'll check from there and also read them out. And those that have questions, please organize your questions. For those who will not be able to attend to today, you can also do a carryover till tomorrow.
Okay, now apologies. Sorry, I needed to attend to someone.
All right, welcome back, sir.
Yeah, thanks so much now. So vis-a-vis now, you just have to put so many factors into consideration, just like I stated. Now, last, we have to look at third-party providers here. Now, some varsities, you can actually apply it to them directly. Yeah. For instance, a popular university, CBU in Nova Scotia, Sydney, in Canada, you can't apply as an individual. So some varsities, before you apply to them, you need to apply via their third-party agents in Africa. So if you are taking this as a business or something you want to do, you should start working towards getting partnership, right? That will be taught, and we'll learn how to see. There are so many varsities who are licensed, who are looking for partners to collaborate with. So I don't know if we got ample time, that will be discussed. But one thing you should also note is some varsities, you can't apply to them directly. You only do that through their third-party providers. And I cited a popular instance with the CBU varsity in Nova Scotia, Sydney. Before you can actually apply to them, you have to use your, and some of us must have heard about different study abroad platforms where people are actually used to apply for admission. Now, but what our advice is, don't get to take some of those routes, because some of those people are just traveling consultants or study abroad consultants who are actually running their own businesses. So they might not be so astute for delivering intended results, but they just got a website, right? That's why my candid advice at the time is if you actually want to take it as a job, develop all the mastery you need around it so that you can make your own decision yourself. Now, the next to look at is scholarship and funding. So important because coming to study abroad is by far one of the most exorbitant and expensive routes. It's so expensive. You can't believe that people pay as high as 80,000 Canadian dollars to complete their program. And that in naira is over 90 something million naira. That's so huge an amount. So it won't be making no sense. After doing all of those programs, you are now asked to come back to your home country. You know, it's a near suicide attempt. It's a near suicide act because after putting so much funds, here we are, and you're telling me to come back home. No, you must be crazy to do that, right? So that's more reason why before you actually get to put some of those things into consideration, you have to look at your financial capacity. And if you can't explore, we got third options, right? Those example of those options are scholarship. So now in the bits now, you can explore or research scholarship opportunities early, right? So for that particular, maybe in Canada, what are some of the scholarship opportunities that applies or that avails to the institute you are applying for? You just have to research for that early and look for country-specific or program-specific scholarship. Yeah, what do I mean? Now, country-specific, there are certain scholarship that only applies to Canada, aim or target such scholarships. There are certain scholarships that actually applies to a particular course. Let's say nursing. There are scholarships in nursing. You can actually look at them. Now, when it comes to funding, outside scholarship, there are third-party funding parties like Prodigy, like Profinance, like Empire, Lakeview Banks. Lakeview Bank finances all of these names I called. So you should start looking at how you can take partnership with Lakeview Bank so that you can outsource funding capacity for other applicants who will be coming through you or for yourself. These are just a few of the stuffs to consider. Now, let's look at preparing your journey application process. Now that you have gotten a varsity, you have the funding or you got a scholarship, what do you need? First, it's so important before you apply. The following should be noted. The success for being admitted, your admission is totally dependent on you. So if you get a denial or if you don't get admitted or you're not given admission, it's all your fault, right? Just like I keep saying in all of my sections, I do understand Africa, we have cosmic pass. Africa, we have black pass. I do understand in Africa, there are so mystic activities in Africa. But when it comes to this, just note there are no village people in this thing. It's not your uncle, it's not your aunt, it's not nobody in your village. If you don't get it, you don't get it, it's all your fault. So what are some of the reasons why people don't get it? Or what are some of the things to put in place before applying for admission? The first is essay. You need an essay later. You need to write an essay. Usually, those essays are called academic. You center basically on your academic and personal goals. I don't know if that is well understood. So now you need to first and foremost get yourself an essay, right? So, for instance, you are coming for a postgraduate program, for instance, write a good essay. It's called, sometimes it's called statement of purpose. Most of the people say statement of purpose or personal essay about yourself, because you have to tell the registrar who you are. The registrar doesn't know you before. The registrar has not seen you before. So what are some of the things to write an essay? What are some of the things to note? I wish we could have a section on this where we learn how to write essay. Now, first, your essay should be attractive and catchy. So use opening sentences that you are using to grab the reader's attention. You could use a quote, you could use a question, you could actually use some fact or an interesting statement. The next, after your maybe 2 sentences, you just talk about, give the reader a reason to, the registrar a reason to read about you, right? Now, the next is a clear, concise statement, which is a thesis statement, right? What is the main argument or what is the point of your essay? That will actually set the direction for the entire essay, because if the researcher decides not to read beyond, at least he or she now has a well-calibrated view of what you are trying to say. You'll see that. So put in your thesis statement, especially when it comes to the SOP. Now, the next is talk about why you want to apply, supporting your thesis statement. Give all supporting evidences you have as touching that. Put in some analysis, then the transition. But we are going to look at all of this. Maybe if we have a second or subsequent sections after this one, we are going to see how to write essays so that you know how to package statement of purpose, because when most part of your clients, or you're doing it for yourself or for your clients who actually want to come study for their graduate programs, first, you have to get them statement of purpose. And it won't be wise to start paying third parties to do this. You can actually handle all of that all by yourself so that you can actually have a well-defined edge, right? So once you are done doing that, which is a statement of purpose, get some letters of recommendation. You can have 1 or 2 people recommend you to talk about you. This could be a relative, a well-advanced relative. It could be a lecturer in your ex-alma mater, your alma mater, or your previous school. It could be anybody. Once you have your statement of purpose ready, you have your letter of recommendations ready, at least 2. These are people who can just speak for your strength. Yeah, he's a good person. When he or she was taking XYZ course in whatever university you graduated from, just 1 or 2 people who can talk about your character worthiness or wording character, because that is also very outside learning and learning worthiness. We also need character worthiness. So a people who can actually vouch for your character worthiness, that is a good person, an amazing person. This person has this and that, just to build. Now, once you have that in place, the next step, go get your transcript ready. And one of the undoing for most persons trying to come to study is their transcript does not tally with the course they are coming for. I give you an instance. Someone actually had a BA in Yoruba language from University of Ibadan, and now wants to come to a graduate program in data science and analytics. With common sense shows that something is wrong here. You are actually having a variation. That is a sharp variation. Those person had a BA in Yoruba language. Now he wants to come do maybe informatics and design. Just the way I'm saying it, your guess as good as mine. it doesn't relate. It doesn't. But not to scare us. There are still courses you can do. Like you can do your MBA, whether you have BA in Hausa language, BA in Efik language, you can do MBA in anything, right? So you just have to get your transcript ready. Ensure that your transcript bridges the gap between of your academic history so that you actually have everything in place. The next thing to look out for is navigating deadlines and requirements. So now that I have my transcript, I have my letters of recommendation, I have my SOP, the statement of my papers, I have that in place, or I have that for my client. The next thing I'm going to look out for is the application deadline. When are the closing? Trust me, admission has deadline. So an admission might run for 2 months, might run for 1 month, and there are certain admissions that are coming once in a year. So if you miss them, you have to wait for the next year. So you have to keep track on that. Know the program you are coming for. What is the admission deadline for application? Are there scholarships? If there are scholarships, and what is the duration to resumption, so that you can actually juxtapose the time you're applying and the time you are getting visa. But all thanks to all of these challenges, there is something called admission deferment, so you can defer. Usually, there are 3 academic years: January, May, and September. So you can still defer, right? So if you don't meet a particular academic year, you can defer to the next one. But do well to apply on time. Do well to apply on time. So once you know the academic and the admission requirements in place, you have your transcript ready, you have your letter of recommendation, and then you have your statement of purpose. The next is for you to apply. Now, most schools in Canada don't require IELTS anymore. As long as you come in from an English-speaking country, you don't need IELTS. Some might require, if you're coming from Francophone countries, where French was the official language, you might need something Duolingo in French or any French-related language proficiency course. And in the case where you don't want to cushion or spend so much, you can actually come for a language immersion program in French, where you get to learn French for 6 months. Let's say you speak English, come learn French for 6 months, but you still be in Canada. You have ample time to work. You are in Canada. You can do your thing and all, right? So these are just some of the things to look out for. Now, also note that most times when you want to make application fee is required. Only a few schools don't require application fee. Most schools will require to pay application fee. So in order for you not to be losing money all around, it's advisable that you must have gotten ensure you have all their requirements. And this thing is not rocket science. The requirement for the course will be spelled out clearly. As long as you have the requirements and you're applying, you sure get it. But in the case where you don't have the requirements and you still want to apply, note there's application fee, and those fee ranges between 35 Canadian dollar to even 500 Canadian dollar, depending on the varsity or the college. So you should not just be losing funds applying randomly. A few persons will say, we are going to get you application in, let's try 10 schools. By the time you just suppose the application for these 10 schools, you might end up paying more just on admission alone. So make sure you meet the admission criteria for application, then pay your admission fee. Once you do that, a decision will be made and admission will be granted. So the process is easy peasy. It doesn't require any form of rocket science, doesn't require any form of specialty. You don't have to go take some advanced courses, 3-6 month courses. You can do it right away with just the section. So that is just a bit to what should be noted. So now, after getting admission, some schools will ask you to pay acceptance fee. Some schools, so you pay your acceptance fee. So once you pay your acceptance fee, you are done with the process. The next process now is your study permit. So you just walk into the official Government of Canada website and apply for your study permit. Currently in Canada, you need proof of funds, but I'll get to explain that. You need proof of funds if you're applying for courses beyond 6 months, because if your course is beyond 6 months, you need a study permit. But if you are doing short courses, You don't need proof of funds. Short courses are courses that are below 6 months, right? Courses that don't get up to 6 months. So you'll be getting what is called the short course study visa. Short course study visa is all you'll be getting. So in that case, you don't need study permit and you don't need proof of funds to the tune of 20,000, like the case used to be 20,000 Canadian dollars. That means so much. That means so much if you are actually trying to apply for yourself. But I think we got sections where proof of funds alternatives like sponsored bank accounts or sponsored accounts was actually discussed. So maybe you do yourself much good by reaching out to the organizer to see if they can allow you watch their video on that, so that you can have explicit ID, even if you can't raise that funds, so that you can possibly get to work around stuff like using a sponsored bank account for that purpose. So in a bit, once you apply for your study permit, that ends the process. So once the study permit is granted, you'll be asked to apply for your biometrics. So you apply for biometrics with VFS Center. So you get the dates, come for your biometrics and facial capturing. Once that is done, your passport will be stamped. Eureka, you are good to start coming to study in Canada. So that is just the much we are going to take for the study abroad. I just want to believe on the last day of the section, we possibly will do some practicals, and still not forgetting, some schools don't require application fee. There are some schools that are even free. For instance, in the US, University of Berea is free. If you want to study in the US, places like Berea is free. And as a take-home nugget, schools in Europe are cheaper. With about €100, you can study in places like Italy. You can even do a postgraduate program in Italy for as low as €80, right? So don't get to feel that the cost for studying abroad is exorbitant everywhere. No, it's not. It's not. Some parts have it cheaper, while some parts have it so expensive. And there are even some parts that is completely free. And there's a host list of several schools that you can even study for free. And most of those things exist more in Europe. Most schools, even studying in Germany is even free. Yeah, German even have most part of their varsities for free. Some parts of Europe, virtually Europe is the cheapest place to study. The reason is because government has actually subsidized the cost for education, and at the time also now, they give you some sort of support to see that you acquire some education. So if you are not nation-based, you just want to acquire some form of education, just use that as a medium to leave Africa, Europe is the best place to achieve that, because Europe, you don't need so much. All you need is you need a translator who will transcribe, a transcriber who transcribes all of the documents to their own language, make application. And most times, all of the application fees, applications or admission, there are no admission fees. They are free. So just apply. You could still get courses as low as €80, €125. I mean, that's a section and that's a year, right? So very affordable, very cheap. And also, if you consider coming to Europe and you don't mind, Europe got so many doors open for you to come study abroad, right? And some schools are free. A perfect example of that is University of Berea. So Berea College in the US offers, it's a free tuition varsity. Let me show us. So if you are coming to study in Berea, it's free. One of the clauses here say no tuition, no tuition. If you can see this, so whoever that is coming to study in Berea is not paying a dime, it's free. So application is free. You apply as an international student for free. And when you are given admission, you still come for free. And Berea College is in the United States of America. So there are several schools like the Berea College. I just want to use Berea as a case study. Can you see? No tuition, no kidding, $0. So this is the amount every enrolled student pays in tuition. First, when you want to apply, it's free. When you are being offered admission, it's still free. You don't have to pay a dime to come study in the US. In schools like Berea, in schools like Psycholia, they are just free. But if you don't get to know all of these things, you might not know. I'm so happy someone today knows School of Berea. So go see how you can apply. why we compile our list and send all of these schools. Some are free, some you can get scholarship offers. Those you can actually come with low tuition, those that give grants, how to go about them. And as a traveling agency, how you too can start your own study abroad on loan program by partnering with Lake Mead Bank with just your ITIN. So I don't know, time will not permit me to go into that because I still have two other sections and I have limited time. But a case study of places where you can study for free is the the Berea College. And they have you can run your programs in arts and sciences and social sciences and all. Right? So let's leave study abroad for now. So that is just a piecemeal on how to come study abroad. No tuition, it has always been free. It has always been free. And you can still work and learn. So work to learn. So you can see the on-campus jobs and off-campus jobs as the case may be. So the next we are going to be looking at now is tour packages. I will just give us a breakdown. I'll be swift on the tour and very quick. So let's talk about packaging tour. Now, from experience, the most lucrative service around the study abroad is packaging tour. Tour packages are the most lucrative. So if you are a traveling consultant, you have a traveling firm, one route that is never discussed, one route that people have not looked at is tour package. Though we still have a few people doing pilgrimage tours, some are doing sightseeing, but the tour package, believe you me, is by far the most lucrative. I'm going to just give us some places where you can package tour and just make money, like easy peasy, less stressful, and make more money. Okay, in getting started, what is tour? It's self-explicable, so I might not spend so much of my time on that. We'll just dive into it. Moments, please. So when we talk about tour package is very simple. It's just simply the act of you getting people leave their country of nationality to another country just for the purpose of tourism. And tourism in its broader sense means leisure, recreational activity, and relaxation, right? So now that is just what it's all about. So when you talk about tour package or packaging tour or being a tour agent, as the case is, it simply means that you can actually just get a few percent, you can get people to leave their home country to another country just for the purpose of relaxation. And it is by far one of the simplest service. It's very simple. The reason why it's very simple is because I'll talk about a few places you can take people. I'll also talk about other places you can take people via tour. How to get those places quickly and fast. Now, that is just what tour is all about. So you take people from point A to point B solely for the purpose of relaxation for a couple of few nights to 7 days, then you bring them back to their home country, right? So that is what tour is all about. And as a Nigerian, you can package tour to all free visa countries. For Nigeria as a case study, we have so many countries Nigerians can go that they don't even need visa. And some of those countries are amazing. We have countries Nigeria can go with just ETA, electronic travel authorization. We have so many countries where Nigerians can go with ETA pass. Countries where Nigerians can enter with so amazing countries. There's nothing like, how do I get their visa? And or you don't need any of that. You don't need any form of licensing. So that is just all you'll be needing to actually get success, right? And beyond this, also now, there have always been a major inclination in this axis, migrating, people using tourism to migrate. Yeah, so many persons use tourism to migrate. Some persons who went for the holy pilgrimage never returned, especially some part of Israel. So when they get to Israel, they never returned, and some of them are domiciled there. So you just have to know that some persons are using tour packages to migrate, right? For instance, if you get people to places like the Caribbean nations, let me just get to give a list. Places like Bahamas, Barbados, St. Kitts and Nevis, Dominica, Fiji, Haiti. Do you know most persons will use this route never to return because they're in the North American continent, and because they are there, some uses this medium from there to the United States. For instance, I know a couple of persons who are in the United States who came in through Barbados because those places are not so far. Some persons who are able to get to Panama during the time Nigerians had free visa entry to Panama, Panama generated more persons or brought more people to the United States than even some approved visa routes. Because Panama shares borders with the United States. As a matter of fact, they use the United States dollar. So Panama is just the mobility. You don't need air. You can even board a cab. You can board a taxi. You can even board train to the US from Panama. So you see that now. So sometimes back when the Panama route was still open, most persons just get themselves to Panama. So when they get themselves to Panama, then they find their way to the US. Then when they come, they declare asylum after a few education and all. Some of them today have their papers. Easy peasy. So the top package has made more millionaires in recent times than any route. The reason is because some persons, to some extent today, as the case is, for people who actually wants to apply for any sort of visa, one of the criterion you tell them is, do you have traveling history? So someone to use this as a traveling history. So you can get people to Singapore, yeah? All you need is just a Singapore SVG card. And you can get that in 2 hours. I know Singapore is in Asia. So most people will like, what you mean you are taking us to Singapore? That will actually spike their interest. And before you know what, so many persons will buy your package. All you need to do as a tour agent is, though we are going to look, what are some of the things you need to put in place, right? What are some of the things you need to put in place? Because if you don't have those things in place, they might actually impound on your chances. But let us talk about a few countries you can get people. So many persons have actually planned tour to African countries like Nairobi, like Zanzibar in Tanzania, to some African countries. But my candid advice is, if you must do tour, don't. If you reside in Africa, it will make big sense getting people to start leaving one part of African country to another country. You'll find that there will be a decline in patronage. Yeah, I was on Facebook some day back. I looked up a flyer that says it's getting people from Lagos in Badagry. They are taking them to somewhere in Port Novo in Benin Republic. Can you see? Sure, they might get clients. Some people just want to explore and all, but the clientele will not be so much compared to when you are taking them to continent outside the African continent. Do you know, if you get to put up content for maybe getting people to places like Bahamas, do you know 1,001 people want to apply? Do you know taking people to Barbados? Even coming to Barbados is just a Barbados ED card they need. It's free visa entry. They don't need visa for this place. The international passport suffices. So you just get them a COVID-19 card. It's called the ED card. You don't have to do anything so special. You can even get that online. You can bring people to Singapore, yeah? If at all you must take people to some African nations, take them to North African nations like Seychelles, like Maldives, right? You can even take people to Mauritius. Those places are still amazing. And there are still 1,001 people who want to go there. Do you see that? So there are still amazing places you can take people. The North American continent is fruitful for this. And there are still some part of Europe that are free visa countries that you don't need a passport. you can actually just get people to actually move into these countries easy peasy, just for the purpose of tour. And once that is achieved now, you can just use that as a way of adding more money to yourself, right? Rendering more services and all, right? You can even get persons, you can even get a tour for Jordan. Getting a Jordan visa is easy peasy. It's very easy to get a Jordan visa. And by far, as long as Asia is concerned, one of the places with one of the robust economy, even in terms of exchange with the United States dollar, is Israel. Because the Israel shekel is way bigger than the Nigerian naira. Not so big compared to the Ghana cedis today, but it's viable. So if some persons are okay, you're getting a Jordan tour, take them to Jordan for 7 days. When you get to do that, some might not want to return. It's at their own expense, it's at their own cost. If the immigration gets them, it's fine. But if they can get an exchange program, it's also fine. So you can still get package tours to Jordan. I've talked about Singapore. Singapore has always produced more persons, so you can still bring people to Singapore. The implication of getting it is usually not so expensive. And lastly, you can get taught to anywhere. Anywhere, you can just get taught to anywhere. But before you start thinking about tour, what are some of the things to put in place? You have to be good on your calculations. So you have to figure out the price and given the cost for a particular tour. You have to look at the cost for getting the document they need. For instance, if it's a Singapore SVG card with $100, you can get SVG card in 2 hours. Even you and your family, you can decide to move, you yourself can come to Singapore for tourism with an SVG card. You're in Singapore. You can get to places like Seychelles. You can go to Mauritius. You can go to Maldives. These are still amazing places in Africa, right? Now, you can still come to the Caribbean nations and some other parts of Europe too. You can just take some tours to all of these places. Jordan in Asia, so you can actually move into all of those places. But before you now start planning tours, the following should be remembered. One, first, get at least an estimated amount for their flight tickets, to and fro. A return ticket, what is the cost for a return ticket? For instance, a return ticket to Singapore should be around $800 if you're buying from us, right? Now, to and fro, I mean, so you take them to Singapore, now you bring them back to Nigeria or bring them back to Accra or take them back to Johannesburg, depending on which African country you are joining the section from. So once that is in place and once that has been achieved, first, get an estimated cost for the flight ticket. Now, the next in question now is, certainly you have to provide them accommodation. But most times accommodation are shared accommodation. So you can actually get 2 persons. You can get 2 persons in a particular hotel room. So you just have to figure that. Usually for the purpose of tour packages, $200 should suffice if it's 5 nights. So you don't have to get something so expensive. You don't have to get something so exorbitant. And if you're also interested in getting this done, you can still reach out to the admin or the group admin for all the different groups you're coming from. We can still work together and get you that cheaply. Now, the next you just have to do is you can get a tour guide, someone who is going to show you guys around. Remember, for some of those places you are going to, you have not been there before. And because you have not been there before, you might not know all of the amazing places, all of the places that will spike or catch attention. So to actually cushion for that, you need a tour guide. So once you have figured all of these things, then you now add your own fee to it. Let's say you are charging $500, for instance. Add all of that to it. Now give them a benchmark or a price mark. Put in some ads. You get 1 or 2 persons who are coming. But so far, taking people to the North American continent, that is the Caribbean to be precise, has gotten more persons because most people who are coming to the North American continent actually want to use this medium to migrate to Canada or to migrate to the US. For instance, coming to Barbados or coming to Panama, most persons have used this route and today they have found themselves in other parts of the North American continent. So you too can actually put up these things and get multiple persons rolling out. Sometimes back, we got someone who actually got people to North America. I think he got 200 persons. And from the price mark, he made at least 700 United States dollar on each of those persons with not so many efforts. You don't need anything so special to get. The only thing you'll be getting for people who are coming to Barbados and they have ability to stay for the next 6 months. It's just the Barbados ED card, and you can get that in 2 to 4 hours. So let's think through and let's see how we can actually get this thing started. Now, let's talk about the conference visa. It's so amazing to know that when you are trying to visit, let's take for instance, United States, or you are trying to visit Canada, you need sometimes for you to actually have a very strong or valid point, you need to use route like the conference route. So conference routes are B in the US is the B1 visa where you're coming to attend a conference, right? And in Canada it's also a business visa. So you can still explore that. So when we talk about conference visa, there are visas that are issued in retrospect to coming for a conference or in an attempt to attend a conference. And one thing you should note that the conference visa is also a visiting visa, right? It's also a business visiting visa. So for Canada, you'll be given 10 years. For United States, you also be given 10 years. Do you get that now? So, but when you are trying to get application via the conference visa, you must remember the following. First, you need a conference, right? Because you say conference visa, there should be a conference to attend. And the reason why you're attending is solely to get what is known as an invitation letter. Because when you get to apply for a conference, you'll be given an invitation letter, and with that invitation letter, you add that to your application, increasing or boosting your chances of attending. So what's one of the things to note when trying to come in through the conference visa route? Take conferences that are in direct proportion to your discipline, conferences that has to do with your profession, conferences that have to do with your skill. Because if you get to take conferences that has little or nothing to do with your skill, when you'll be asked questions, maybe at the port of entry, they ask, okay, tell us about this conference. You might not have explicit idea. Do you understand that? You might not have explicit idea. So take conferences in tandem with your profession, right? And there are so many conferences that you can actually still attend. When it comes to Canada, when it comes to the US, there are so many, depending on your field, right? And one important site you can actually use for that is All Conference Alert. If you go to All Conference Alerts, you're going to see amazing conferences. So let's just do a little demo before we talk about getting some tourist routes. So let me just give us a little demo on that. So I'll be sharing my screen. Visiting the All Conference Alerts website. Specifically now, our case study now is Canada, right? So you're going to see so many conferences you can attend. So I'm sharing my screen now. You can still use the same website for the United States, for conferences aligned to impact, right? So now we have business conferences, we have health, we have mathematics, STEM, engineering, physical, name it, right? So your contact so that you don't have to start searching and searching and searching. So let's take, for instance, I want to take a conference in business, so let's click business. So when I get to click business, I'll see all upcoming conferences that are business related. Let's assume you have something to do. Okay, let me narrow my search. Narrow my search to Canada alone so that we just get to look at some conferences you can actually register. Now, these are some tips for taking conferences. Most conferences are paid. The rule of thumb is never take unpaid conferences. The fact that this conference is free, you are not paying. If the conference is free, you might not get an invitation later, and you might not get a because outside sending invitation later, you have to send the data page, request for the data page of the organizer, right? So for people organizing, the organizers or the people putting up the conference, the conveners can actually send you their data page, give you invitation later, and in the case that you need other supporting documents, they can actually get to give you all of that. When the conference is free, you might not get all of that. So these are some conferences in Canada. So first, do not go for free conferences because you might not get all the necessitated support you need. The reason why people take conference is so that they can get all the necessary support they need. You get that. So support like invitation letter, supporting documents like the convener international passport, and sorry, their passports. If the for him to pull up an international conference, so he or she will send you their data page, give some supporting information just to actually show that they are where you are coming basically for the conference, right? So now these are some conferences you can take. We have conferences for 24th August down, keep going, keep going, keep going. So there are conferences in different regions and in different places. And secondly, don't take conferences that are too close. Now we are in August, you're taking a conference in August. No, it's a dilemma. Because before you start getting all the supporting applications and waiting for decisions, now you might have lost so much on time. And conferences are time bound. Remember, you can't attend a conference when the conference is over. So that makes it funny. So try to get conferences that are several weeks away, maybe 2 months away. For instance, this 25th of October. So it makes sense. So let's assume I'm actually in the academic space, a lecturer or a teacher. I can go for this conference. So you can say International Conference on Education and Social Sciences. The venue is Regina in Canada, right? So I'll click on this. Now, so I'll get all informations about this conference. So the conference details is coming up on the 10th of October 2025, right? Now, event organizers, you can get all the information. The conference starts on this date and ends on that day. Most times, don't apply one day. Try to take conferences that are 2 or 3 days. The reason is because so that you have ample time, right? And you might be given a consideration. So the conferences that are going to span through for 2 to 3 days, increasing your chances for approval, right? And I said, don't go for free conferences, always go for paid conference. So if you're interested in this conference, you can register. Just click to register here. So when you click, you enter all of your informations. And just like I stated earlier, most of these conferences are paid. So you will have to pay, right? Because if you don't pay most times, sometimes you might not get all the supporting documents. So yes, the date of conference is 25th to 26th of October. The last date of registration is 10th of October. If you are coming to present a paper or something, you can do all of that. Deadline. Now, early registration ends 25th of September, so you can actually get to do all of that. So you get that now. So if you are so interested in applying, you can now apply. So that's what the conference visa is all about. So when we talk about conference visa, it's a business visa, visiting visa you get solely under the purpose of what? Of a conference, because you are going to attend a conference. So and this conference is paid. Now, if you get to look at payments, let's get to see how much it is. So you have an overview how much the payment is. Okay. Yeah, it's saying make online payments, payment details. It's the luxury of time to do. Then it takes us to where to pay. Depending on the program type we are choosing and all, then there will be a fee to pay. So after paying, your payment is confirmed. You are going to get what? You're going to get an invitation later. So with that invitation letter, you can request for other document from the convener so that you can actually get so much backing for your application. And the good news is with a conference visa, you will still be given a 10 years Canada visa or 10 years United States of America visa. And sometimes the duration is dependent on what date is left on your passport. So these should actually be what's noted. So on the third day of our section, if time permits, we are going to do some practical section, then see how all of those things work. But at this time now, I feel we have about 18 minutes to call up the mates. So let's at this time get to just ask a few questions so that we can actually just get to take a few questions. And with those questions, we can actually now bring the class to a close while we get ourselves ready for the tomorrow section. Thank you. So if you got a question, the rule for participating in questions are one, you just have to lift up your hand. Secondly, stay muted until you are being called upon. Thirdly, when you're called upon, mute yourself and ask your questions so that you actually get answers. So if you got a question, just put up your hand and I will call you up. Then you mute yourself. So when you mute yourself, you ask your questions and answers will be provided. So I think the first question or the first hand here is Temidayo Sunday. Mr. Temidayo Sunday, if you can hear me, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, good evening, sir. And
Yeah, great.
thanks for the interesting lecture. It's so understandable. So so far so good. I didn't have any question anyway because almost all what you said so
You're
far,
most
I have the
welcome.
idea. Yeah, so I have the idea. I know how this works. You know, I really don't have any challenge with lecture. But for now, I don't have any question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so now it's amazing. Mr. Temidayo Sunday say he doesn't have any challenge. So the next big thing now is I should catch Mr. Temidayo starting a study abroad program soonest. Thanks so much, Mr. Temidayo Sunday. So you can mute yourself rather while we go to the second person, Joanne. Can you please unmute to
Okay.
Thank you
ask
so
a
much.
question, ma'am?
Please, sir, you also check the chat section. We have some question that has been posted there since.
Okay, so I'll be doing that right away. Okay, why, Joanne, you can proceed with your question if you can hear me. Okay, while we are still waiting for Joanne, someone asked in the chat question, please, do I need a study permit to study in Canada for less than 3 months? No, you don't. All you need is a study visiting visa, right? A short course visiting visa is all you need. So you don't need a study permit and you don't need 20,000 proof of funds. You just need a good amount of funds, right? Because it's not a study permit that will be given to you. You will be given a visiting visa. And depending on the duration of your passport, if you're lucky, sometimes they could just give you 10 years for minding. Now, someone said, what are the procedures for applying for an exchange program? Now, exchange program does not actually mean switching one course to another course or switching one university to another university. Exchange program also applies to getting a job. So if you're lucky enough, you came in while studying and you're able to get a job that can give you work permit, you can switch and in that, you can leave study. So that's an exchange program. So one of the core procedures is the course you are going for, you must apply for it and you should be offered admission before exchanging, right? And do it to always work with varsities that have affiliation with your school, your current school of studies, so as to enable you switch and still maintain the same year or the same academic level so that you don't lose on that. So that is just the quick answer to that. Now, someone said, can you use your scholarship admission letter as a proof of funds? Now, it depends on what part of the continent you are going to study. In some part of Europe, yes, but in Canada, no, because beyond paying your tuition, you still need substantial funds for your upkeep, like accommodation and cost of living. So that is another factor to put in place. Now, someone said, what are the programs and language courses you can do in the US as an international student? You can do French, you can still do English. So all language immerse programs, you can still do them. Now, someone say, what is the best route to get work permits in the UAE? Sorry, this is not a work permit class. That has been discussed sometimes earlier. So maybe you can explore that in subsequent sections before this one. Now we are okay. Okay, I think that is all for the question. So the second question now is Mr. Sonny. Mr. Sonny, if you can hear me, can you ask your question, please?
I think I will mute everyone, then you can unmute yourself, please. Mr. Sonny, are you around?
Yes, please.
All right, go ahead.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Wade. Thank you for the
Most
lecture's
welcome.
insight.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask this question. Um, is it possible to convert HND in Nigeria HND to a postgraduate diploma in Canada?
Okay, yeah, that's an amazing question. Now, when you talk about HND, I don't understand the dichotomy that exists between a degree and HND, right? Like the conventional system, it doesn't work here. If you have an HND, you can still get a postgraduate diploma. Sure, you can. You can either do a postgraduate diploma or a postgraduate baccalaureate. And there are still some universities who still allow you to come for a postgraduate master program. Sure, there are. So I
Okay.
don't know if that answers your question. Yeah.
Yes, very well. But it's just that we still need more insight, so we don't know how we can follow up such
Okay, now
insight.
a follow up section should be with your group admin. Reach out to them, ask all of your questions. If you need supporting guide and all, you will sure get that from it. That I'm 100% confident about it.
Okay. Then the second question is, um, for instance, I did my first degree with a name, and as time goes on, I did a change of name on my first name. Is it
Okay.
possible? How do you go about documenting this if I want to apply for school abroad?
Go and get in my wrapper.
Okay, now the first question is what name is on your international passport? Is it the change name or the one that is in your degree?
The current name, the changed name, not the one in
Okay,
my
great.
degree.
Now you just need a sworn affidavit from a sitting high court in your community or in the state or in the country where you are. Then you can do some sort of formal publications on any available press media and just have a proof to that.
That I have done, but I'm looking at this.
Sir, call yourself.
That I've done, but
You
I'm looking
didn't
at the
still watch
process.
this rap.
That I have done, but I'm looking at the process of applying. So should I now use the name that is in my degree or the name
Okay,
that
now
I've
yeah,
changed?
this is what for all of the documents you are using or submitting for application, your international passport is the most valid. So use the name. For most programs, they will ask you for second name, right? So first, I will enter the name. You enter the name on your international passport. There's always a second name option where you have to enter a second name. For instance, if I'm a female, I used to be, let's say, let me use maybe a random name, Sarah and Sarah John, for instance. But now I got married to Peter. So my name is now Sarah Peter, right? So on my first degree, or all of my academic papers, I have Sarah John. But now I'm married to Sarah Peter, and I actually want to make an application. And on my passport, because I was married, my husband helped gets me my international passport. So the name of my international passport now is Sarah Peter, not Sarah John anymore. So you don't have to do anything so special. Enter the name on your passport, most admission procedures will always ask you for a second name. So you can enter your order or the previous name before the change that actually carries your academic papers.
Okay, all right. Because I was actually taking away that in such case you can scan those documents as a supporting document, like the affidavit you soon, the newspaper publication.
Certainly, certainly, you'll be adding all of that alongside. For instance, if you're married as a female, you also have to enter the documents that actually shows that you have a civil partner now. And that you can do by uploading maybe any certificate that was given to you from the registry, the marriage registry or the customary court, depending on what case applies in your nationality.
All right, thank you very much. I think
Okay,
The
so
answer.
that's thanks so much to that now. So we move on to Mrs. Inkolika. Pardon if I never got to pronounce your name so correctly.
I think she also dropped her question on the chat too. Maybe we'll check that too.
Hello, good evening.
Okay.
This is Joanne.
Okay, yeah,
Joanne,
greetings, yeah.
I was trying to unmute my mic. I couldn't do that. Okay, so I've done that successfully. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for the lecture. Please, I would like to ask about these tour packages. I would like to know the guidelines because you just give us like a summary through how to go about the tour, but like from the scratch to get the contacts on and how to fill those visa applications.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Mrs. Joan is muted. Mrs. Joan, if you can hear me, can you unmute yourself, please?
Okay. Hello, can you hear me now?
Well, I
I
can't
actually.
now.
Can I hear you now?
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to ask that concerning the top package, I kind of have interest in that area, tour packages and ticketing, because I would like to know from how to start from the scratch. Because the tour thing, it has to be how to navigate from like booking the ticket itinerary and making it so perfect that one will not have to lose. Because I've actually gone on tour with some agents like that, and some they charge exorbitant fee. So that's why I'm really interested to go into this tour package because I work at the immigration office, passport office to be precise. So been doing passport for a long time. So I really want to enter into the top package and the ticketing industry. So I really, really need more knowledge. I don't know if you're going to get a lot of this information because the way we just got it, I'm just like it looks so like a wrap. It's very short. So I don't know if you're going to give us a lot of content that we are really going to read through, like study, like the content and the link that we need to know what to do on how to start ourselves. Thank you very much.
Okay, now thanks so much to Mrs. Joan. Now, a bit to the viewer. First, getting started is easy peasy. For most part of these destinations, you don't need any form of visas. Majority of them, you just need ETA, SVG card, e-pass cards, ED cards. So all of these things, we can provide them for you if you are interested in any of those destinations. So what our advice is just reach out to your group admin. So we are going to actually sensitize and give you more information on that area. Now, when it comes to ticketing, you can actually buy from yourself. That makes it more cheaper. So in that case, now you just subscribe to our white label program that empowers you to launch your own flight and hotel booking platform in minutes. So I think that will suffice and cushion for most parts of the challenge. But if you need further information, that's not so much of a challenge. You just reach out to the group admin. Trust me, there are a few other persons who took sections like you who are currently running their own tours. I know a few names, but for the purpose of generality, I might not want to mention them. So it was a great delight for me to see them running their own tour packages. So it was an experience so amazing. So if you need more explicit knowledge on how to go about it, all you need to just reach out to your group admin. I will personally give you all the information you need and guide you adequately so that you actually achieve success. So thanks so much, Mrs. Joanne. So can we just move on to
Thank you.
in yeah, you're most welcome. So let's move on to Inkolika Fondo.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Well, for the incisive lessons. My question
You're
is,
most
with
welcome.
respect to the scholarship route, when one applies, can you hear me, please?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? With
Sure, I
respect to the
can hear you.
scholarship
We
route,
can hear you. Go on.
thank
Go
you.
on.
Okay, with respect to the scholarship route to Canada, if one applies for a study visa, can one also get the opportunity of applying for their immediate family?
Okay, yeah, great. Now, sure you can. For instance, a married couple, civil partners, his wife got a scholarship. Apparently, she won't be leaving her husband behind. So they both have to go together. And if they got children, they can't leave their children behind, or she can't leave her children behind. Okay, let's take, for instance, a mom who had a 3-year-old baby who got scholarship to come study in Canada. Now, because of the scholarship,
Yeah.
she would not by chance leave her child behind or her husband behind. So she has to bring
Yeah.
everybody. So if
Yeah.
you got some sort of scholarship, or you got some sort of grant, or you got some sort of financial aid that enables you come to study in Canada, you still have to come with your family. So all you need to do is you also apply for your family using the same UCI number, and your family will be liking to be called your
Okay.
dependent. So that is just all you need
All
to do.
right.
So it's easy peasy, yeah. Thanks so much for that question. So we
Okay.
move on to the,
Thank you. Sorry,
okay,
Mr. Wells. One more. Sorry. I haven't finished. I'm sorry. I'm applying for a fellowship in the Rotman School of Management. I'm just
okay.
about to submit my application. I just want to know, is there anything I can do to enhance the chances of my getting the scholarship? It's for a
Okay, now,
JD MBA. It's a dual scholarship.
okay, now basically when it comes to the Rotman Scholarship Program, from experiences so far, a few persons who have actually gotten, they got it basically on merit. Now, it's still something that comes on merit, but your services to humanity will enhance that one, and some sort of awards you
Yes.
have gotten also now will also increase your chances. So one of the factors that actually put you in the spotlight
Yes.
to what awards have you gotten so far? What contribution have you made to humanity? So some sort of humanitarian legal services you have rendered in
Yes.
the past. Maybe you have stood up as a human rights activist, advocated for less privilege, or persons who are
Yes.
innocent of a particular crime who got no money to pay for legal services, and you stood up for them, you vindicated them, and abated some legal judgment that was supposed to be pronounced on them. So all of that, to some extent, increases your chances. But the long and short is for
Okay.
the said scholarship, a few persons who have
Yeah.
gotten. I have so many persons who are on that same scholarship program, but from experiences so far, what
Okay.
increases your chances are your awards, humanitarian services. So,
Okay.
what are some
Okay.
professional
But what if
qualifications you have
I
attained
don't
so
have
far?
awards to back up? Sorry, I'm so sorry. I was asked to write about my spy factors. I highlighted the fact that I volunteered, with some firms. I also volunteered I work with some NGOs. There were some pro bono matters I did, but don't have any evidence to back up those claims. So, would that suffice?
Now, with the look of things, when it comes to scholarship programs, especially
Hello?
international scholarship, yeah, can you hear me, ma'am? Can you hear
I can
me?
hear you, please.
Okay, now when it comes to
I can
international
hear you.
scholarship,
Yes.
great. When it comes to international scholarship, the truth is it's something that is open to the door of everybody from all over the world. So sometimes you might be lucky enough not to have so many people from your profession applying for the said scholarship or in the said country where you are wanting to study.
Okay.
And in the case where you actually put in for some
Mm,
humanitarian services with no proofs to show, that might actually, because you actually have to submit all of that in the course of time. So, for instance, if you said you worked with an NGO as an NGO legal person supporting the cause of humanity, using your legal ability to actually advocate for people within the jurisprudence of whatever
yes.
services you claim you have rendered, there should be some paper or
Yes.
some sort of recommendations to affirm that claim or to attest that any of that exists. Otherwise, 1,001 people will just write 1,001 humanitarian services. It's just paperwork. So anybody can write anything. But if you've got proofs to these things, then you stand a better chance. And the next view I will say in all, I just pray God grants it to you, because these things outside application, it's a kind of a selection from a pool of competitors. So
Yes.
sometimes with all the application,
Yes.
who knows, you might be lucky. But my next desire and heart desire is you get it, right?
Thank you.
You're most welcome, mom. Thanks so much. And I feel you are
Okay.
a returning
With,
Please.
with
student.
respect to the white, I'm
Yes.
sorry, the
Yes.
last question, please. The widest white label, Mr. Wells, please, I have one last
Yeah,
question.
I
I'm
can
so
hear
sorry.
you. I can hear
You
you.
spoke about, you've been talking about this white label. If I apply to subscribe to this white label, does it mean I can then issue book appointments and book travel tickets for my clients without any other cost to myself?
Yeah, when you get subscribed to the white
Please, I
label,
just
you
need an
can.
explanation on how does this white label work, please?
Okay, this, let me just give you a 60 seconds view. Now, when you subscribe to the white label, you're going
Okay.
to have a booking platform in your business name. For instance, your agency is XYZ agency, so you have something like xyzfly.com. So it's a website where people can buy flight tickets and make hotel reservations in your website. So when they do those things, they pay you.
Yeah.
You take the payment. You decide the cost of the ticket by adding your own markup, and when they pay, the ticket will be issued on your behalf using our Global IATA license. So the ticket will be issued for you in your business name. So the entirety of the concept is truly white label. So there will never be a time where transfer will be
Okay.
mentioned.
So
Everything is going to be just your own idea. Sorry, can you hear me?
no, I
Please let
can. The line is
everybody that
breaking
has
up so much.
question just
So
drop
are
it
you
in the
saying I have
chat.
to?
Just drop the question in the
Are you
chat.
saying I have to take all the? I take all the profit. Do I take all the profit, or I have to share the profit with ATA?
No, no, no. You take the profits yourself. You decide whatever profit, 10%, 50%, whatever profit you want to take, it's your business. So it's totally your own business. So you decide how much you want to earn. So when the client pays for a ticket, let's say Lagos to Dubai, you take your own profit and send the exact cost of the ticket to us, and we issue it for you in your business name. So in that case, now enhancing globalization of your idea, and you
Okay.
sell to the entirety of the globe, regardless their language, regardless their currency,
Okay.
because it's multilingual and it's also multi-currency. But I feel a bit to further understanding should be reached by getting in touch with your group admin so that they will guide you adequately because of time.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
So we
So
have
I
more
think
questions in the chat.
okay, yeah, I got one now. He said, the question I could see here says, he said he stays in Sierra Leone, I want to believe. I mean, Sierra Leone, what are the chances of traveling to Canada? So many chances, but just reach out to your group admin, you'll be guided adequately. Because I only have 6 more minutes to spare, and once it's exact that time, I'll be leaving the section. So let's just maximize the chances and the time we have, right? So let's move on to Chukwemeka. So, Mr. Chukwemeka, can you ask your
Then
question,
drop their
please?
questions on the chat so that you just pick them from there.
Okay, it's fine. But those who can talk can still talk. So, Mr. Chukwemeka, you can. Those who can just drop your questions. I'll see how well I can answer them in the shortest possible time I have. Mr. Chukwemeka, if you are there, can you ask your question or we move on to the next person? Okay, let's assume it's not there. Let's move on to Fato Olusegun. Oh, sorry. The next person is Fadare Olumoyiwa. I guess he's a returning participant. Mr. Fadare, can you hear me? Okay, let's assume Mr. Fadare is not there. Let's move on to Mr. Fato Olusegun.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Please,
Okay,
the question I asked before, how to get the work permit for Dubai, UAE. The other time you wanted to touch UAE, but you eventually touched Qatar. You did not touch UAE, so that was the reason I'm asking the question again.
Okay, now I'm making an appeal to the conveners. Please specially enable Mr. Fato Imbo to ask his question directly to his group admin. Then I'll give more the support for that. Mr. Fato Imbo, I don't know if that works for you.
There's no problem. It's okay.
Oh yeah, thanks so much. It seems Mr. Fadare is around now. So Mr. Fadare,
Yes,
can you ask your question?
yes, thank you very much, sir. I'm actually
You're most
a
welcome.
return participant, truly. Yeah.
Wow,
My question
wow.
is just, yeah, thank you, sir. My question is just about the MOU that you made mention while explaining exchange program. You said somebody has to know if the program you are doing has access for MOU with the other school you are exchanging to. So my question is, how will someone know if the program is actually going for as an MOU anywhere?
Okay, now, majorly on virtually all licensed or DLI varsities, colleges of vocation, they will always list other affiliations, like places they are
Okay,
affiliated to. You get that one. So
okay.
you
Yeah, I
on their
understand.
website. So because you now know the affiliations, you can target those schools for your exchange program when you are there already. So thanks so much for that swift understanding.
Thank you.
We move on to Mrs. Ogechi. I think she's also a returning participant because I've seen this name before. Mrs. Ogechi, are you there? Okay, let's assume she's not there. Let's move on to the next person. Okay, the next person is Mr. Isaac. So, Mr. Isaac, I think that's the last person on the
Can you hear
question
me?
list.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Here is Mr. Isaac.
Okay, great. Sorry, Mrs. Ogechi will get back to you. Let's listen to his own question. Okay, Mr. Isaac, can you please ask your question, please?
All right, well done, Mr. Worth. I quite appreciate your weight of experience. My question is,
Thank you so much.
how can one make use of his own business in partnership with some of the tertiary institutions abroad to work together to facilitate maybe top program for students or anybody that's intending to study abroad? How can we have a kind of concentrated partnership that will solidify this business move?
Okay, now virtually every varsity in Canada, let's say all varsities in Canada have a place for partnership or become our partner, right? Because most of these schools you see, international students are the ones who even grow their revenue. So because international students are the ones growing their revenue, they need a representative in any of the intended country where they open admission to. So all you need to do is you visit their website. When you get to visit their website, there's always partnership. So when you do, just go to their website, fill in the partnership form. Sometimes they will ask you to submit all your documents. You answer some basic questions like number of years you have spent and all. Then when you do that, if you're eligible, then you'll be given a partnership right. And with that partnership right, you can now start recruiting students. And one of the advantages that comes with being an educational recruiter is you get discounts on the fees, and sometimes they also give you commission for getting students for them. So the affiliation is open to all, regardless where you are. All you need to, for any of the schools you want to take partnership with them, just go to their website. There's always a section where it's requesting that people partner with them. So click on that, fill in the form, do all the necessary things they ask you to do by submitting your document and all, maybe CAC, some sort of document. Some will ask you a few questions, some will engage you on a call. And the good news is for most of these schools, after you are done doing all of these things, they will give you a partnership certificate which you can now use in your business place or in your office. So for anybody who wants to go to any of those schools to study, they give you priority to view when you bring students. So when you are applying for students in those schools, the chance of them getting the admission is higher because they're already their partner. So if one or two documents is missing, then they can tell you, then you go provide. And most times, for a partnering organization, they could allow you make application without paying application fee. So if you want to be an educational resource person, educational recruiter, all you need to do is, as many schools you can take partnership with, do them. Spare out a day. Just spell out many schools and can visit their website, submit the partnership agreement with them. And when you do that, then you can, some will approve, some might not.
Network. Hello.
What
Hello.
happened?
Yeah,
Hello,
sorry.
I can't hear Mr. Wet again. All right, you are welcome.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, so now
Yes,
visit
sir.
any website you want to take partnership with, and when you do, they induct into their partnership program, and Eureka, you start getting students for them. It's easy peasy. Those things don't even require any form of specialty, right? It's just a little effort. You can spare out your weekend. Maybe you got other jobs, you're just doing this as a side hustle. Spare out your weekend, Saturday, Sunday, go to as many websites you can apply. If you've got some staff in your organization, give them that as a take-home tax. Give them as many websites you can get. Let them apply for partnership in all of these schools and use a standard email. An example of a standard is an official email. For most of us who are here, who have the white label, you find out that you have emails in your business websites. So that gives you a better stand. Instead of using Gmails and Yahoo or Rocket Mails, you might not get attention. But if you have a business mail, you get a swift attention. So if you are here, you've got a business mail, use that to apply. Outsource it to your staff. For some of us who are bosses who have staffs, give them as a take-home assignment. Each of you, give them a list of varsities or colleges you want them to take partnership with. Give each person 20 for the week. Before you know what, in the month, you have taken partnership with more than 100 schools in Canada. So when people come to apply, you'll now be at the point of selection. Oh, should I send to that school? Should I send to the school? So it's easy peasy taking partnership. And partnership is free. You don't pay anything to take partnership, and you enjoy benefit like getting commission when students pay tuition, and you might still get some percentage cut for every time you get student for them by not paying application fee or get discounted amount for the fees you are paying. So I don't know if that answers your question. While we go to take the last question from Mrs. Ogechi. I don't know if she's still there.
Thank you. Thank you. It answers my question.
Hello, good evening.
Okay,
Good
you're most
evening,
welcome.
everybody.
Good evening. Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Walter, in fact, I'm really overwhelmed with all your teachings. You have really exposed us to a lot. Your teachings are highly commendable, to be honest. And I just want to indicate that I'm
Thank you
interested
very
in
much.
the tour package. Hello? I'm
Yeah, I
indicating that I'm
can
interested
hear you, Ma.
in the tour package because like last year I lost couple of clients that wanted tour, but I couldn't deliver. I couldn't. In fact, the people I ran into to help me out, they messed me up. So that made me lose a lot of people on that in that field. So I would like to get it right. I would like to, get more knowledge on that so that this time around, let me see how I can get back to them. They are actually government parastatals that wanted that, but I couldn't deliver. So I'd like to get more knowledge on that. That's my own contribution.
Okay, now that's so plausive. It's so amazing to see take courses and trying to put them to use. But just reach out to your group admin, you'll be guided adequately. Just like I stated earlier, there were a few persons who took courses, sections like this. Some of them are currently running their tours. And every time they do that, it actually gives me the sense to give more or to actually give the very best I can to see that everybody who wants to come to the traveling space develop some sort of mastery that set them apart from other persons in the same business. Now, lastly, I think that's the last question. Someone said, how do I register for the white label? It's so easy. Just reach out to your group admin. You'll be guided on that, and you can come on board and start issuing your own flight and hotel tickets almost immediately. Once again, thanks for the time, and thanks for giving me audience, and thanks for being there always. So I think at this point, I'll be leaving the section. So now to Mrs. Dorcas, can you just take over now? Thanks so much, everyone.
Okay. Thank
And
you
bye.
very much, Mr. Wells. God bless you. Thanks a lot. So I
Amen.
think
And thank you so much.
thank you so much. So for those that are interested in registering for the white label, just reach out to your group admin. You'll be guided from there. And then tomorrow will be another great session again with Mr. Wells. So avail yourself, be available. Try and if this network is giving you problem, if it's MTN, maybe you try switching to another. I know it's rainy season and the weather is really, really not friendly with the network. God will help us. So with these recordings, we are going to get them ready for all of us so that we can go through it. I hope that I post it early so that you can go over it before tomorrow's class. And when you have more questions during tomorrow's session, you can also bring them out, and also the last session. Thank you so much, everyone. I want to believe that we have all gained a lot this evening, that we do not just make noise. Can I get confirmation from 2 or 3 people that you have gained
Yes.
something today? All right.
Yes, so target
Yes,
position.
All right.
we've
Yes,
gained a lot.
from massive value.
All right. Thank you so much. That's good. Thank